Okay, as everybody knows, at our 1530th events, what we do is we have a topic of the day and we discuss that topic, and everybody has an opportunity to be on screen to tell us their viewpoint about that. But today we're going to be doing a little something different. Basically, what I'm going to do is give everybody about a minute and a half to tell us why they got into the business they're in and what they think makes them different or unique than other people that may do the same or similar business as them. So if you want, I'll just explain to you briefly how this is done. I'll kick it off with in 2010, I started doing business consulting and I decided to do it for free. And the reason why I did it was because I found a lot of people couldn't afford business consultants, and I've got, now over 48 years of business experience. So I just started sharing that information with people absolutely free. And then what I would do is refer them to people that I network with that I got to know, like, and trust, which is the reason why I network. But that's why I do what I do. That's why I created the networking group, to find great individuals to share with people that I meet. So that's what I do. Angie, you want to tell us about what you do or
Of course. Yeah,
why
I'll
you
go
did it?
next. Yeah, so I am a financial coach, and I did that because of my journey that my husband and I had with money. We both came in with very different backgrounds. We were in economic classes that were different. And we realized that even though we did a budget and did all the standard financial advice, it just wasn't working because we didn't know how to communicate. So we would use phrases like bad with money and put them through our filters that had two different meanings. And when we started to work on that, we went from a decade of no financial progress to having all of our debt, everything going plus our house paid off in under 6 years. And that's what prompted me to develop my Agree and Achieve method to help other couples do the same. So instead of focusing so much on the budget and the numbers, I focus more on the communication and like the decisions behind what you do. So if you're going out to eat and you're mad at your budget for going over it, I actually look at why is your car going to the restaurant so often?
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, Angie. Okay, Eugene, why did you get in the business and what makes you different?
Well, I actually got into the business of being a producer and writer in the entertainment industry for a couple of reasons. Well, first, my father wanted me my father was a silent film actor and a professional baseball player. So he wanted me to do one of those two things, and I totally rejected it. But then, when I came a fraction of a second from death in my early 20s, I had a mission. I was going to make films that could change the world and solve problems because I didn't want anyone else in the world to have the experience that I had and be that close to death. So I started that. Nobody else was doing it. This was back in the 70s. And I've been writing screenplays in that forever since. But nobody wanted to make them. So I decided I had to produce them myself. So right now I have a feature film, the one behind me, Lead the Way, that's streaming around the world. And I've got some feedback on it. And one of the things said, oh, you can offer possible solutions to problems, but you can't actually solve those problems in a feature film. So now we're trying to make the next film, we will actually incorporate the solution to a problem while we're making the film. So I think that's totally different than what anybody else is doing with their motion pictures. And we also want to do it with video games. And video games are so violent, they're more violent, most of them, than feature films. So if we can get those solutions into video games as well, I think we're going to change the whole world of entertainment. So
Okay.
that's all I have to say.
All right, great, Eugene. Thank you. Roberta.
Thank you. I started in the late 1990s. I wanted to help emerging musician and talents get into the entertainment industry without having to sleep their way into the industry. That was the rumor then. So what I did, I jumped in passion first, no experience. So let me plan an entertainment industry network seminar. I realized that events cost money. So I leveraged my background in sales and I sold my events to companies within my community. Then when I went into corporate America to fund more events, they told me no. And I picked up the language sponsorship, and I was able to secure corporate sponsors. I wanted to bring this information back to my community. Like, you're planning these huge events. Let me show you how you can get funding for your events. So I decided to put that information in a book, which is called How to Secure Sponsors Successfully. So I'm self-taught in securing sponsors. Also, I created a metric to evaluate the sponsorship success. I have a win-win approach to sponsorship. I wanted the community to know this is the way you get funding, and this is the way you can help a brand achieve their goals. So when I teach others how to secure sponsors, it's 3 pillars I focus on, and they can use this throughout the world, which is the 3 pillars consist of understanding sponsorship, because a lot of people don't understand sponsorship. They think it's something else. The second is communicating, knowing the sponsorship language. That's what changed it for me. And the third is how to write a concise and clear sponsorship proposal. So those are the 3 pillars, and that's what I've been doing from then to now.
Okay, great, Berta. Rob?
I got involved with the insurance industry, and honestly, it was because of my disdain for the Affordable Care Act. I have to be honest. And I was just so angry that somebody was trying to tell me I had to do something, and it was mandated by the federal government. So, I got involved in the health insurance space. And one of the things that I figured out very quickly was that I think the insurance policies deliberately try to confuse everybody who has one and make it as difficult to understand, and actually, what are some of the things that could occur when you go and use it. So I really developed a tactic of advocacy for my policyholders in the health insurance space. And really, my goal was to turn people into consumers of their health care instead of being victims, because like 90% of medical billing nowadays it deliberately has errors put into it. So also in addition to the health insurance aspect, I also became very much involved in the retirement space for policyholders as well, because the approach that I have is all about the education, understanding the value of money. And, really, when you're a product-driven agent, you're only interested in selling and getting a commission. Whereas the tactics that I try to use is, really understanding what your goals are, asking the correct questions, and then showing some of the different vehicles that you could use in order to achieve those goals. And, my goal was to have you tell me, Rob, I want you to be my agent, and I want you to write this policy, because based on the information you share with me, I know this one is right for me. So I think it feels a lot better when you're making your own decisions. I know I like to do that, but I can't tell that to my wife. But nevertheless, it's all about being an advocate and looking out for the best interest. Hence is why I've got the registered trademark of your health and wealth bodyguard. Now, let's recognize there is no violence involved with that, but I am all about protection of my clients.
Okay, Rob, thank you. All right. Anybody else like to? Okay, Mike?
I'm sure I didn't realize I had to raise my hand. Well, I don't know if I've told this story to this group before. When I got out of the Marines 24 years ago, now as a sergeant on active duty, I thought they were going to treat me like a general in civilian life. And then fast forward less than a year later, I'm a college freshman bombing most of my classes. I'm doing entry-level manual labor. Got thrown out of 2 apartments in 2 months. I finally got my own place. No more roommates, no more dorms, no more barracks. I said, it's time to do something big, something epic in my life, something life-changing. I moved in on May 1st, and on May 3rd, I went to my first Toastmasters meeting. And that's when everything changed for me. So I'm willing to start everything else at the bottom, do everything from the beginning, because in Toastmasters, I'm a somebody. The people twice my age who have respect for what I'm able to do. That's been the constant in my life for as many times as I reinvented myself was public speaking. I came down here to Peru to teach English as a foreign language. And I love teaching. I love Peru, love my students, but I knew there's something bigger, and teaching has a shelf life. And I've always loved speaking, did very well as a language teacher. The next evolution was to coach people in public speaking. That's what got me into the business that I'm in. What makes me different from most people, and I really come to that realization just this week, yet again, is that most people in this space who do this, they focus on delivery. They think that TED Talks are the pinnacles of public speaking. They care more about these right hand gestures or looking good on a sizzle reel. They don't put a whole lot into their content, really developing stories with conflict and elevating that conflict so people buy into it and say, you are not leaving this stage until we resolve this conflict. I didn't realize how many people are coaching speaking and how few people are coaching on content.
Okay, great. Okay, Mike, thank you. Maxwell.
Audio now unmuted.
So I believe the first part of the question is, how did we get into what we're doing now?
Correct.
And for me, a company that's in the same space I'm in now in accessibility reached out on LinkedIn and offered me a job as a writer for their website, sharing my experiences.
Looks like you're done talking, so we'll lower Zoom.us has new window.
I hate the new I hate that new thing, the artificial intelligence on Zoom.
And lowered.
And so they invited me to use my storytelling to promote the whole concept of the importance of accessibility. And over time, I've realized that I've been doing this for a long time. And even though I didn't originally see myself as an expert or the expert, over 15 years in several different businesses, having to fight against inaccessible websites and apps, going back to having to learn to code HTML just to get online. I've got the experience and the credibility. So that got me into it. And where I feel like I'm different is I focus on a positive, non-threatening approach, making the case to business owners about why they should care about accessibility before I ever start talking about how they would implement it, whether we're talking about a physical product or service, a website, an app, or their content. And I feel like the positive approach, a collaborative approach, is why I get such great response from most business owners, because they're tired of people threatening their livelihoods over something that they feel like the majority of their customers will never need. But I find that if I approach them in a more positive way, and also talking about how it's a process or it's progress over perfect, so that really relieving the fear and the overwhelm around how am I going to do this once they decide they need to. I feel like that's the place where I'm really different, which is why I call what I do the accessibility advantage, because I want businesses to see it as a competitive advantage rather than a regulatory challenge.
Okay, great, Maxwell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anissa.
Thank you. I got into this really by happenstance. I started taking teacher training classes for yoga because I didn't want to go to anybody else's class and be on anybody else's schedule. It was only to keep myself safe on the mat. I had no ambition of teaching whatsoever. And after I finished my first class, within a month, I had 2 job offers. And I thought, gosh, maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. So I created a business, became a contractor, started teaching, and decided to continue taking teacher training classes. The school that I was going through offered what they called Yoga Fit for Warriors, and that was for PTSD for veterans. I live in a huge veteran and active duty community, and I said, I should take these classes and bring them back to my community. However, I was about halfway through the first day, and I realized that the first person I had to work on was right here. So started my journey. I had the opportunity to, over the years, become a yoga therapist. I specialize in PTSD and TBIs. And I got to work with active duty and veterans. And it was really fulfilling, along with having a private yoga studio and working with women who were like me, sexual assault survivors. Over the years, my clients would come to me and say, I feel great after class, but then I go into talk therapy and I feel like crap again. And so I realized that there was this huge disconnect. And I felt it too, because I was in talk therapy as well. So I started doing some research and I came across a group of tools that we can utilize to tap into the unconscious, allowing it to process the trauma, which is where the trauma lives, not in the conscious, where talk therapy it comes from. And so I went ahead, got more training, and now I am a neurosomatic therapist. And I work again with people with PTSD and TBIs. Why am I maybe better than the average person doing this? I don't know. I would say that I walk the walk every day. I'm a 2-time sexual assault survivor. I work with women who are just like me, and I get it. I walk the walk with them. And so being able to work with women who are like me, God, that feels my well. It's wonderful to see a woman make a shift. And that's what I live for. And so I think that that's what makes me different.
Okay, final call. I was muted. Anybody else? Oleg, would you like to tell us why you got in the business and what makes you different? You're muted as well.
How about now?
You're good.
Okay. So originally I got into the computer business because I really wanted to become a drummer. And so it doesn't quite connect there, but that's the true story. And so I got into computers because I really liked this one video game, and I started kind of on this journey into computing, and many moons and many different companies and everything else later. Basically, I realized that for small businesses, they really need IT services and capabilities, but they don't have the funds usually to have their own IT departments. And what makes me different is, there's a lot of people that offer these kind of services. One of the things that a lot of businesses miss is also be able to have their own applications to handle whatever business related things they have, because you can go and buy applications off the shelf, but they will never do exactly what your business requires. That's just the way it works. Everybody tries to develop something for everybody, which means they develop it for nobody in terms of actually handling it, 100%. So I'm much more into custom stuff for businesses to give them exactly what they need, because IT and now with AI is a complete game changer. And the reason I think I would say I'm different than most people that do this is because I really love to see, that's basically what makes my day, to see this piece, stupid piece of metal and plastic actually do something productive. And so basically, it's almost like molding something with your hands and creating something from nothing. And then, of course, execute it, and, it brings whatever benefits it brings to whatever businesses. But the thing I think where I'm different from most people that do this kind of stuff is I also put myself always in the shoes of the user. A lot of the dev guys, programming guys, they just do it from their perspective. And so they use all these acronyms, and, they use all kinds of different, basically ways, because they think that's the way it's supposed to work. They don't really pay attention to how real users actually use the software or how it should be designed. And I always look at it from that perspective. Yes, I'm a pro. I've been doing this for over 4 decades, but at the same time, I'm also a user. And so I always look, whenever I design, develop software, it's always from the perspective of the user. And lately, I've been actually, a little story there. I've been involved with this company for a few months, and they hired a team out of India to develop an app for their new startup. And they did a horrible job in terms of designing the app, just absolutely horrible. And that's exactly, when the CEO looked at their app, his feeling was, what's wrong with this? It's fine. But I looked at it from a standpoint of a user using it, and I thought it was just terribly, terribly done. And so what I wound up doing is writing my own version that does do it the way users, I think, would like it. And so that's basically what makes me different. It's just like I said, I usually look at it from both professional and user perspective, and try to tie the business needs to the technological solution. And now with AI, it's a completely different world. I mean, I was able to do in 1 week what the team of 10 people in India did in 4 months doing the old approach without using AI.
Okay, great. All right. I think we hit just about everybody. If there's anybody we missed that would like to do it, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording. And many of you may see this on your LinkedIn, hopefully, and I'll definitely post it on my LinkedIn so we can share what you do with everybody else or why you got in the business, and maybe it'll give you a little extra boost. Who knows? So I'm going to stop the recording